1-3 operations with real numbers. We're going to start with the absolute value. The absolute value of anything is just the distance between 0 and that number on a number line. So if we look at example 1a, we have the absolute value of 4. It's just 4. For b, we have the absolute value of -4. Again, just 4. And then c is the absolute value of 0. 0 is neither positive nor negative, so it is just 0. So you'll realize with these that your answer, when you're taking the absolute value of anything, is always positive, regardless if it starts from positive or if it starts negative. Your answer is positive. For your next part, you are just evaluating opposites. So two negatives next to each other just mean take the opposite of a negative number. So for A, it tells us take the opposite of -12. The opposite of -12 is +12. For B, it tells us take the opposite of -8. So start with the inside first. The opposite of -8 is +8. And if we take the opposite of that, it's -8. For addition, you want to remember your rules. If you have opposite signs, you're going to keep the sign in front of the larger number and subtract. If you have same signs, keep the sign of the numbers and add them. So for A, we have -6 plus 13. We can also rearrange this to be 13 minus 6, which is 7. For B, we have -9 plus -7. So same signs, keep the sign, add the numbers. So we have a negative times, or the opposite of 9 plus 7, which is the opposite of 16, which is -16. For B, we have the 2 and a -2 that we're combining. These are opposites of one another, so our answer is just 0. For D, we have -35.4 plus 2.51. The number that's larger is the 35.4. We're going to keep the sign in front of it, which is negative, and then subtract our two numbers. So we're going to do 35.40 minus 2.51. The 0 is going to become a 10. 4 becomes a 3, then becomes a 13 because you cannot take 5 from it. The 5 will become a 4. So 10 minus 1 is 9, 13 minus 5 is 8, drop down your decimal. 4 minus 2 is 2, drop down the 3, apply your negative. So that's 32.89. For E, we have -7 plus 0.05. So again, keep the sign in front of the larger number, which is negative, and subtract the 2. So we're going to do 7.00 minus 0.05. Or we'll apply the negative as well. This first 0 becomes a 10, making the next a 9, and the 7 becomes a 6. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 0 is 9. Drop down the decimal. 6 minus 0 is 6. Apply the negative. That's -6.95. For F, we have 1/5 plus -3/4. We have to find our least common denominator first, which is 20. We have to multiply the 5 by 4 to make it 20, so the 1 becomes a 4 as well. So it's 4 over 20, plus the 4 would multiply by a 5, making the -3 times 5, which is -15 over 20. So 4 plus -15 gives us a -11 over 20. Next, we want to look at subtraction. So for A, we have -7 minus 3. We can always turn these into addition. It's going to be the same thing as -7 plus -3. We already know our rules for addition, and with this, we have the same sign, so we're going to keep the sign and add the numbers. 7 plus 3 is 10. Apply the negative. That's -10. For B, we have 7 minus -3. Whenever there's two negatives next to each other, they turn into positives. So this is 7 plus 3, which gives us 10. Oops. For C, we have 48 minus 99. This is the same thing as 48 plus negative 99. So we're going to keep the sign in front of the larger number, which is negative, and subtract the 2. So 99 minus 48. Then apply that negative once we're done. 9 minus 8 is 1. 9 minus 4 is 5. So negative 51 is our answer. For D, we have negative 3.6 minus negative 7. The two negatives next to each other turn into addition. So this is negative 3.6 plus 7. We're going to keep the sign in front of the larger number, which is positive, and then subtract these two. So we're still doing 7 minus 3.6. So we do 7.0 minus 3.6. So the 0 turns into a 10, making the 7 a 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 minus 3 is 3. We drop down that decimal point. We have 3.4. For E, we have 0.02 minus 7. This is the same thing as 0.02 plus negative 7. So we're going to keep the sign in front of the bigger number, which is negative, and subtract the 2. So we're going to have 7.00 minus 0.02. Remember about that negative. The 0 becomes a 10. 10 becomes a 9. 7 becomes a 6. 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 0 is 9. Drop down that decimal point. 6 minus 0 is 6. Apply the negative. We have negative 6.98 for our answer. For F, we have 1/3 minus 1/6. Two negatives next to each other turn into positives, so 1/3 plus 1/6 is what we're doing. Our like denominators here is going to be, or our least common denominator is 6. So we're going to multiply the 3 by 2, making the 1 a 2 also. So that's going to be 2 over 6 plus 1 over 6, which gives us 3 over 6, and that simplifies to 1/2. Next, we do multiplication. When we're multiplying two numbers, if they have the same signs, our answer is positive. Different signs, our answer is negative. So for A, a negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 6 is 18. For B, negative 4 times 10, opposite sign, so negative 40. For C, we have negative 0.01 times 0.02. The 0.01 times 0.02 is 0.0002. And then we have opposite signs, so our answer is negative. And then for D, we have 4/9 times negative 1/5. So we are going to just multiply straight across. So we're going to do 4 times negative 1 and 9 times 5, which gives us negative 4 over 45. The next part of our notes goes over multiplicative inverses, which are reciprocal. So we're just flipping these fractions. So the example A that we have is negative 2. This is just going to become negative 1 over 2. For B, 3/8 becomes 8 over 3. For C, we have negative 0.2. This is negative 2 over 10 because the 2 is in the tenths place. That's the same thing as negative 1/5. So this is just negative 5. And then with the division, when we're dividing by fractions, remember, keep, change, flip. So for A, we have negative 60 divided by negative 2. Signs are the same. They become positive. So this is 60 divided by 2, which is 30. For B, we have negative 24 divided by 3/8. So we're going to keep, change, flip. It's going to be negative 24, or negative 24 over 1 times 8 over 3. We can cross simplify the 3 and the 24 to become negative 8 and 1. So we have negative 8 times 8, which is negative 64. And lastly, for B, we have 6 divided by negative 0.2. So this negative 0.2 is the same thing as negative 2 over 10, which is negative 1/5. So we're doing 6, or 6 over 1 divided by 1/5. We're going to keep change flip. So this is 6 times negative 5, which is negative 30. One very last thing that I want to tell you is that when you are doing or dealing with zeros, if it's something divided by 0, it's going to always be undefined. If it's 0 divided by something, that's always 0. So 0 in the denominator, undefined. 0 in the numerator is 0.